Alright, welcome back. So moving on from here, it's time now to bring the texture I created in Mari. Okay, so let me go select my skin material, which is this guy, right, and go back to the base color here and load in my image. And that's gonna be this guy here, and the image will be my body diffuse, right, this guy, and open. Right. It's going to open my body texture, and I can also make it a UDIM because it is. I think I can pause the render and redo it so that it will refresh. Okay, so that's my texture being passed into diffuse map. I'm going to do the same thing for the subsurface color here. Alright, those two are supposed to be the same, which is the diffuse color. But what's after that will be the radius, and this is actually a very interesting design. The first time I saw people or renderers design the subsurface scattering this way, which they're using RGB channels to define like different color, how deep they go. Okay, which is quite interesting. So I'm gonna actually utilize that, but I need to do some tweaking of my texture to really make a difference. Let me pause the render here. So the idea here is that according to their documentation, the color here, the RGB color here defines how deep different RGB color goes in. So their suggestion will be, if you're doing human skin, make the right color pretty high and GNB gradually lower. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do exactly that. So I'm going to create a new remap color. Okay, I'm going to drag that to the color, and the result goes to the radius. Okay, and in the remap color, I'm going to remap the RGB. I'm going to drag RGB all down to a really low level, but no, actually keep R actually a little higher. So it's going to be, giving me a dark red color, more or less. And then the result will go to subsurface radius. Let me take a look at the results. Okay, now I think the values are getting too low. There's something I can change here. I can, of course, go back and do some tweaking here. I can also just go back to the scale and tweak the scale. So instead of 0.05, maybe I can make that 0.1, so I can get some subsurface scattering back. I'm still seeing complete black color here, grayish color. I don't see much of a red bleeding. So I may choose to raise that number more, but how I'm really looking at when I'm setting up this material, I think I'm getting let me grab my model. I think I'm going back too much. Anyway, so let me make it array facing me like this. Okay, so again, what I'm really trying to look at is this edge, or the edge of the shadow. What I'm trying to observe is, do I see that bleeding there, the color bleeding, just a little bit of red color there, but still heavy enough so my model feels like solid instead of a balloon or things like that. But I think it's too solid now, so it's lack of life inside of the skin. So I'm gonna actually go back and raise that scale even more. So instead of 0.1, maybe I can make it 0.2, just gradually double the number until you see something you want to see. So I think it's getting better now. I can actually drag in a render range to actually focus on that. It's probably already getting better. Yeah, like that result. So that's gonna be the settings with the texture. Okay, maybe I can make that 25. A lot of back and forth if you want to make good results depending on how much subsurface scattering you want. At some point, I think subsurface scattering values here is not scientific, but more like a artistical choice. So sometimes I just go back and forth to get exactly the result that I want to feel. But now I have really good red bleeding right there, a lot of red on the back of the ear, which is good because my lighting is bright right there. And the other side is also having a little bit, which is cool too. Okay, so that's the subsurface scattering part now with skin texture. And let me go ahead and turn on one more element of the material, which is specularity. The specularity is actually very important for skin material. If it doesn't have any specularity, it will look like that. So let me actually go change the weighting back up to 1. So now I have some specularity on the skin. It's probably too shiny, but again, depending on the how dry the skin is, you can probably choose to do this or having lesser more roughness. Apparently I need more, right? So let me drag up the roughness. Okay, that looks pretty much it. Maybe a little bit higher than that. The skin LR will be something like water, so 1.4 or so, so 1.43, 433, things like that, or some people typing in 425. I don't know which one is correct. Just this, maybe. Okay, you can search for the IR of water, right? It's good that they start using those scientific, values. Oh, you know what? They do have things there. They can change that to water. It's 1.33 actually. Oh yeah, that's actually what I learned, 1.33. And I see some tutorial do 1.47, 1.425 or something. But 1.33 is actually the water. Oh, there is a skin one. Let's try that. 1.4. Okay. So I guess you can use those ones to get better result. Those presets to get better result. Okay. So now I have a specularity on the skin, and I saw that the rim light is probably too strong because of the specularities. So now it's a good time to actually go back and change the exposure here to maybe something smaller. And maybe I can tweak the lighting a little bit. I think I'm losing some rim lights. So actually go make it, oh, it's really hard to tweak. Go to the window, sorry, the render, test the resolution, and maybe just 10% so I can do the tweaking. Alright, maybe make that smaller. Drag it forwards and use this way, so I have some nice ring light. And the other side I can maybe also make it higher so I can have that rim light on the edge. I kind of want it to be, yeah, more like that. Okay, and that might be too much, so drag inwards. And it's too strong, so 14 maybe. Alright, I go back to the view, test the resolution, go back to 100%. Right, so a lot of things matters, like the lighting. If you want to get really good aesthetic, doesn't affect how the skin behaves, but it will look better if you have better lighting conditions. Alright, so this is going to be the reflectivity part, but you'll notice that with those settings even it looks good enough, but something looks off, like the lip is too dry in this case, and some other areas they're all having the same amount of reflection, and that's not going to be nice, and it looks too it looks a little bit flat also, and because the skin is having bumpiness but maybe not enough, and also maybe that's because that you don't have anything to drive the changes of the reflectivity, so that they're just too even in this case, right? Oh, one more little trick before I ends up this tutorial is that we can also use the texture map we created here. We used here to drive a bump map. That way we're getting more information from the texture. It's going to be underneath geometry, and then you can middle mouse drag the texture map to bump map, and then go to the bump map settings, which is this guy, and you can change that to something really low because it's going to be ugly when you don't select crazy bumpy. There you go here and take a look. So it's too noisy in this case, but the reason I use this one a little bit is because with this I can actually have some bumpiness that is matching with the texture, which my displacement map actually doesn't match with my color map in this case. So 1 is too much, 0.1, let's take a look. Better, but still kind of noisy. So 0.05, until I can see still a little bit of that, but not like dominating or too visible. 0.05 maybe is too much. 0.02 I guess. 0.35, it's like some really, it's really like something you can always go back and forth and see and compare. Some people render multiple images just to compare like which one is the best. But now you see that I'm having smaller things that is actually inheriting from my color map. Again, the good thing about that is because is that my color map is from this bump map is from the color map, so the bumpiness and the color map will be matching exactly. And that way you're getting more like a good matching in this case. Alright, that's gonna be it for this tutorial. In the next one, we're gonna go ahead and do some more refining of what's actually happening on different areas to define like how much specularity will be on the lip, how much will be around those shiny areas like the eyelid or the T-zone that is having more oil, which a lot of our areas are supposed to be having more or lesser specularity based on how much oil or other stuff on them. But anyway, basically just the characteristics of the surface shouldn't be the same across the entire face. Okay, so we're gonna do that in the next tutorial.